No. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something.
Breaking news here on Sky News coming into us from the United States. And President Joe Biden says he is stepping down from the US presidential election campaign. He will not run in the US election 2024. We have a statement here coming into us at Sky News. I'll read that to you now. It starts July 21st, 2024. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors and expanding affordable healthcare to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this would have come or been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. He goes on, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have. There is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Breaking news tonight here on Sky News. President Joe Biden has withdrawn his bid to become the next president of the United States.
President Joe Biden has decided to drop out of the 2024 race for the White House on Sunday, just a short time ago, releasing a statement to the American people saying over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation with the strongest economy in the world, but that he has decided to instead endorse his vice president, Kamala Harris, in this effort to try and defeat Donald Trump. I want to bring in Margaret Brennan, who is the host of Face the Nation, as well as Robert Costa, who's with me as well. And Margaret, I understand you've been speaking with some people inside the Biden camp.
We have, because President Biden made this decision in a very small group of advisors. They kept this very, very quiet. And from the calls I've made so far, there is an appeal to say, please don't make this about the process. Focus on the legacy of Joe Biden, that he made this decision in what he views the best interest of the country. That is, he finally heard the message that for 3 weeks now, Democrats have been saying quietly and increasingly more loudly, as they did earlier today on Face the Nation. Joe Manchin, Dean Phillips, others joining the chorus of lawmakers saying that the president has lost the faith of the Congress and lawmakers and that he needed to pass on that torch. What he is stepping aside to do now with this endorsement of Kamala Harris, which he did all via social media. We haven't heard from the president directly. I understand we will in the coming days. But this is a message to quickly respond to the cacophony of voices telling him that he may lose this election versus Donald Trump. Now, we know from our polling data at CBS News that in a hypothetical head-to-head, Kamala Harris trails Donald Trump by 3 points. Joe Biden trailed by 5 points. That is, of course, where we are in the race right now. This focus, this onslaught will turn towards her. Republicans already coming out and saying that Joe Biden's endorsement of Kamala Harris without reopening a primary process somehow looks rigged, somehow denies the vote that primary voters set earlier on in the race we've had to date. So you are about to see an onslaught aimed at the vice president and to undermine faith in the process, the primary process and the selection here. But in this moment in time, it is worth noting that Joe Biden has come to a very painful decision for a 50-year legacy in Washington at such a consequential time, having passed bipartisan legislation, having faced a world in crisis, and by the way, about to go face-to-face with a world leader and trying to broker a Middle East peace.
Right. The President of the United States saying, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term.
Looks like we got a lame duck president. Shades of 1968, Nixon, Johnson. Johnson stepped down, and then Hubert Humphrey took over. Of course, interesting enough, Bobby Kennedy was running for president, and Bobby, by all terms, probably would have gotten the Democratic nomination had he not been assassinated in Los Angeles in 1968. And now his son, Bobby Kennedy Jr., is running for president as an independent, almost over 55 years later from that assassination. Ladies and gentlemen, the big news today out of Washington, D.C., President Joe Biden announces that he will not be seeking re-election in 2024. I'm the man with the plan. This is G. Rich. Let's go ahead and start this special edition of Random Topic Sundays.
Need levels? Check, check, check. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Good, good. All right.
So this is the AP. Someone said RFK Jr. is holding a press conference. Hold on. Got one more thing I got to run.
Wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates and for the Patreon. It is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right. I'll holla. Peace.
All right, guys, we're back. Forgive me if I don't come on screen tonight. Not feeling that well. I decided to come and talk with y'all face to face. Well, sort of face to face. I'm in the avatar mode right now. We have breaking news that President Joe Biden, of course, is stepping down. He's not running seeking re-election in 2024. Of course, on Thursday we talked about this, and it was widely reported even then that Biden was set to step down from the race. People were calling it. I was holding off until we got official confirmation that it was going to happen, because no announcement had been made. So I don't usually jump the gun, and I wouldn't jump the gun, because then had something happen, then I would look like a fool, which I usually don't. But as you know, the president it's official now, so there's no secret that Joe Biden is stepping down as president of the United States next. Well, let me rephrase that. He's not stepping down as president. He is stepping down from the election in 2024. He has ended his campaign, and as such, he has already picked a candidate who he thinks should run against Donald Trump. And if you read his statement, that's on Twitter, that's primarily what the Democrats' focus is to run against Donald Trump and beat Trump. I don't hear who the best candidate is. Of course, he has picked Kamala Harris, his Vice President Harris, to actually run against Trump. And as my understanding, also Hillary and Bill Clinton, they actually have given their support now to Kamala Harris to win the election and beat Donald Trump. And what I've learned also, and what a lot of people are saying, the reason behind that, number one, as you know, there was over $93 million in donors campaign from a donor that was going to be given to that was going to be usually given to the Democratic Party. They were withholding that information due to the fact that they did not believe President Biden could beat Donald Trump in 2024. And I honestly believe that whoever becomes president, or whoever becomes the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, obviously Kamala Harris is probably the top ringer because she's there. I don't see them beating Donald Trump. Just my thoughts on it, because I feel with everything going on with the illegal immigration, with the situation with the economy going as bad as it is, people are going to be quick to endorse the Democrats based off what we saw. Of course, the Chucks and Pearls crew will likely support Kamala Harris, because usually when it talks about black people, especially when we talk about voting, we are not conditioned, or we are not conditioned to vote based on our wallets. Not as black Americans. Traditionally, what they do is history and fear. And that's what we have with this election now. It is based off making history and fear, because if she wins, if she does get the nominee and accept, then I'll just say on the record, I'll take a risk. She's going to get I think she will get the nomination. She could make history if she won as the first woman of color to become president, because remember, she's Indian. Her father is Jamaican, but she originally identified as Asian American. That was the articles that we all saw on Kamala Harris that came out. Of course, she went to Howard, and while she was at Howard, she smoked weed listening to Tupac and Snoop, even though Snoop and Tupac were not even there when she had graduated at the time. They weren't even known rappers at that time. But nevertheless, I digress. She would get the nomination. I don't see, and it's hard for me to see, anybody beating Donald Trump just now with the momentum he has going towards him, especially after what happened last weekend. Oh, look, Bojangles Clyburn made a statement who said that Biden's selfless service and issued a statement praising Biden's selfless service and unparalleled leadership. He said he echoed the good judgment that Biden displayed in choosing Harris as his vice president and that he would follow his lead in support of her candidacy to succeed him. Here's something interesting here. Donald Trump back in 2011 and 2013 donated some money to Kamala Harris when she was running for Attorney General. They came at a time when Trump was facing a class action lawsuit into whether Trump University bilked students out of money. Harris's office never took action against this entity. Officials working for Harris said at the time the donations had nothing to do with lack of action. And already they are coming at the vice president, Kamala Harris, with some posts, with ads. And that debate, if there's a presidential debate, it's going to be something between those two. Y'all really think, I'm going to do a poll right now. Do y'all really think Kamala Harris has a chance to beat Joe Biden? She has a chance to beat Joe Biden right now. You think she has a chance to beat Donald Trump? Let's start a poll. I just jumped on this and I forgot to do my regular regular intro. We are live, and I'm coming at you with 5. Those of you watching on Rumble, on X, and on YouTube, welcome, 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 welcome. If you have not joined the Rumble channel, let me put the link in the chat for everyone on YouTube. I know I have a lot of YouTube followers on here who are listening in, but I want everybody to go to the Rumble. You see that in the chat. Hit that copy, paste. In fact, I'm going to also put it in the banner, another banner I'm going to make here. This is where I'm doing my Rumble now. Make sure you subscribe. Just copy and paste it, because you can also give me money on the Rumble channel. As you know, YouTube has me on a shadow ban, and so we've lost. I see people who are I go live every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Sunday, and yet I see people, 20 or 24 people or 12 people or less that are on the channel, and I believe and I know that YouTube has put us on a shadow ban. As of right now, it looks like they don't have Bobby Kennedy Jr. out. So I'm interesting. It's interesting to see what his statement is going to be. I take it this is out in Massachusetts. Yes, that's where the Kennedys are from. It's interesting what he has to say. Has a chance. Yeah, they want Kamala to make history. That's command me. Oh gosh, if she wins, you know what would be funny? I'm just gonna actually say this is Judge Joe Brown, his comments on her if she becomes president. She becomes president. Oh, god damn. I'll be damned if I'm going to salute this Queen Harris as the damn president. When I was in the army, I didn't want her as my commander in chief. damn sure don't want her now. She couldn't even win the presidential election, presidential nomination in 2020. So how could we, obviously she's there as in a position of power as vice president, which gives, I guess she's younger than Joe, obviously, and other Democratic candidates could be better. But here's the thing: the Democrats screwed this up when they didn't attack this last year. Last year, and I'm speaking strictly from a strategy point, they should have decided then or talked to the president then about what it was they wanted to do in regards to making sure the White House stayed blue. They didn't. They stuck with Joe. He was defiant. And only until recently, when Barack Obama actually said that Biden had to reconsider. This was in Reuters. This was from Thursday. Remember this. He allies. He said Biden needs to reconsider his reelection bid. That was according to the Washington Post. And here on Reuters, they reported it. And he basically said, or what they stated, and why is this limited? He doesn't think he could beat Donald Trump. George Clooney put out an article with the New York Times. Remember this? He put out an op-ed. George Clooney said Biden, and George Clooney, let's not forget, is a multi-millionaire Hollywood star. He said Biden should reconsider. Now, he said this. The star of Batman and Robin, great movie. Not really. Said that. He said that Biden should step down. He said, Michael Douglas even said, I'm not worried about not this. I am worried not this week or next week, but let's say next year. So Clooney said, this is about age, nothing more. We are not going to win in November with this president. Now, how do you think you're going to win now with Kamala as the likely choice? So now Bobby Kennedy. Let's go here. Hold on. Let me stop the screen. So wait. Here's Bobby Kennedy. He's holding his press conference. Fair use.
Stephanie, you ready? Hi.
Bobby
Hello,
Kennedy.
everybody. Thank you for coming. I want to begin by commending President Biden for a career in public service, a long, long career in representing and serving our country, and for his handling of the many difficulties and challenges, personal challenges and tragedies that he suffered during his life with so much admirable conduct and the empathy that he derived from those experiences, that he was always proficient at showing to the rest of us. I want to add that a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively. The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. And as a result, we are where we are today, which is in a period of crisis. And we have two crises, and they both derive from the same condition. And that condition is the emergence of the domination of corporate power over American democracy that accelerated beginning in 2010 with the Citizens United case that unleashed a tsunami of corporate money into the American political process. And both parties are now captured by that corporate money. And they've lost any kind of authentic connection to the American people or to the populist goals of the Republic and of democracy. On the Republican side, President Biden promised the last time around that he was going to drain the swamp. But instead, he came in and he appointed a pharmaceutical lobbyist and CEO to run HHS, Verizon lobbyist to run the FCC, a Goldman Sachs CEO to run the Treasury Department, an oil lobbyist to run the Interior Department, a coal lobbyist to run the Environmental Protection Agency, and so on. And only today, President Trump has announced that in his new administration, should he win this election, that Jamie Dimon will be his choice as Commerce Secretary, and that Larry Fink, the director of BlackRock, will run the Treasury Department. This is the swamp. These are swamp creatures. And his pick as vice president is a salute to the CIA and to the intelligence community and to the military-industrial complex. Their gravy train is going to continue. And President Trump has a connection to the American people, a populist connection, but in many ways, it's the same fraudulent connection that we saw with the DNC over the past year, concealing the real purpose of their objectives, which was to give us a president that represents corporate interests rather than the interests of the American public. We've seen two presidents who aren't really addressing any of the issues that are critical to our country. We have, if you look at President Biden and President Trump, you can look at them and say these are very different people. Their dispositions are different. Their personalities are different. Their expressed ideologies are very, very different. Their approach to politics could not be more distinct. But if you actually look at the policies over which they differ, over the landscapes in which they're staging this election, it's a very narrow Overton window of guns, of culture war issues, of abortion, of trans rights, etc. And the big existential issues that are actually facing our country are never addressed. The biggest of these, perhaps, is the national debt. This is now $34 trillion. The service on that debt alone is now greater than our military budget. Within 5 years, 50 cents out of every dollar that we collect in taxes
Not the only thing I
to
agree with
servicing that
Bobby
debt.
Kennedy on.
Within 10 years, 100%. This is not sustainable. President Biden, President Trump offer no solutions. President Biden on his webpage has no policy issues addressing this or any other policy. He has a picture of himself and saying that we're going to finish the job, but he doesn't tell what job he's going to finish. If it's the job of running up the deficit till it's completely unsustainable, that's something that the American people should know about. President Biden can't talk about it, and President Trump can't talk about it because they are the ones chiefly responsible for running up that debt. President Trump came into office saying he was going to run the presidency as a business. He was going to balance the federal budget. And instead, he ran up an $8 trillion debt, more than all the presidents combined since George Washington. And President Biden is now on track to beat that number. So neither of them are even going to talk about this most existential issue. Another existential issue is our addiction to foreign wars. Both men have said that they're against war, and both men are feeding the war machine. The Ukraine war is a war that should have never been fought. It should have been settled. President Putin has offered twice to settle that war on terms that were enormously beneficial to the Ukrainian people and to the American people and to our security in Europe. And yet, President Putin initialed an agreement. President Zelensky initialed that same agreement in April of 2022. And President Biden sent Boris Johnson over to force Zelensky to tear up that agreement. And since then, it's probable that over 500,000 Ukrainian kids have died unnecessarily.
Remember,
in a
he
war that
stated
is enriching
not full reparation,
BlackRock
cash
because
payment.
they own.
You know, I've respected, look, I look at what happened with the Kennedys regarding the 60s with JFK and RFK, and I've always suspected the government was involved with some aspects like that. And I think in some degree, let's just put it this way, I think they were better than the others that came forward because, yeah, I think some of them did, especially his father had, I'm talking about RFK. I think he really wanted to change things in this country. I think his uncle did to some degree, and they had gotten dealt with by the CIA and the military industrial complex. Nevertheless, Bobby Kennedy Jr., let's be real, we can't I don't think he's offering what he would change in this country if he would change anything, even though he's running as an independent. And that voice is not presidential either. It's going to go forward.
All of the military contractors that are supplying that war.
Whoa.
And BlackRock not only has the contract to destroy Ukraine, but it also now has the contract which President Biden gave them to rebuild Ukraine. Neither of these presidents is going to deal with the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. Diabetes alone, when I was a kid, a typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his career, or a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And nobody's talking about why this is happening. The cost of dealing with mitochondrial disorders in our children, dysfunction, which is diabetes, is now greater than our military budget. The biggest cost to our nation is the cost of treating chronic disease, $4.3 trillion annually. It's 5 times the price of our military budget. And nobody's talking about why did autism go from 1 in 10,000 in my generation and 70-year-old men today, right now, and yet my children's generation is 1 in every 34 kids, 1 in every 22 boys. Shouldn't we be looking into this? Shouldn't we be doing the science to figure out what's causing it? We know that it's an environmental exposure, or
I know we're looking at
an accumulation of environmental.
We got to ask what's wrong with his voice. He's coughing up stuff. We don't want, I don't know if he got sarcoidosis or he's got laryngitis in his voice, or he's got some lung problem. If he got lung cancer, I'm not making fun of that, but he doesn't sound very healthy. I'm just saying.
Genes don't cause epidemics. There has to be an environmental toxin. And all the corrupt merger of state and corporate power has been overseen by both political parties. It's something neither of them, the capture of our agencies by the industries that they're supposed to regulate. They've been turned, our regulatory agencies have been turned into sock puppets of the industries they're supposed to protect us against. And all of these are issues that are critical to the American people. And finally, the most existential issue of all, the toxic division that is destroying our country. And President Biden's, the attempted assassination of President Trump this week is a symptom of that toxicity. We're now more polarized in this country than at any time since the American Civil War. And nobody can see an ending to this. If President Biden gets elected, it's going to become more toxic. If President Trump gets elected, it's going to become more polarized. And neither of these men, both of them say, both of them recognize this is existential. But both of them, neither of them can do anything about it. Why? Because they feed on it. They feed it. They fuel it. And they are the products of that division. So we need a leader who can stop feeding into the vitriol, stop feeding into the anger, stop feeding into the marginalization, the polarization, and who can find those values that bring Americans together rather than focusing on these toxic issues that are intended to keep us all apart. And it's the BlackRock, the State Street, the JP Morgan who are profiting from that division. The very people that President Trump has promised to appoint to run our government who are profiting on it, because it's like the jangling of keys. They're saying, look over here, look at abortion, look at freedom of choice, look at trans rights, look at gun rights. And while we're all staring at each other's throats on those issues, on the jangly keys, they're robbing the bank over here. They're shifting the wealth upward to this new oligarchy of billionaires. And both President Trump and President Biden engineered the lockdowns. In 500 days, they created 500 new billionaires, and they shifted $4.3 trillion northward from the American middle class to this new aristocracy that we have. And it's destroying our country. We need a change. If people want more of the same, they can vote Democrat and they can vote Republican. The only way we're going to get a change in this country is if people come together behind the one candidate who is independent, who has vowed to have a unity government to bring Republicans and Democrats and others all together in a way that finds common ground in our country. A candidate who's the only candidate who's pro-choice, who's pro-environment, who's pro-civil rights, and who beats Donald Trump by 14%. There is no other candidate who can beat Donald Trump. Look at all the polls that have been done over the last year.
Colleen, he don't even sound like a Kennedy. You ever hear the Kennedys talk? It's always with this far Bostonian accent. You pack the cat carver. This man talk like he gargle with glass water. Shit. He sound like he gargle with pebbles. Damn. Sir, the only candidate that could beat Donald Trump for 14 points.
Man, I beat Donald Trump. Nobody else can.
I agree with me.
Thank you very much.
The bottom half of your tweet talked about the nomination process in Chicago next month. Can you talk about that moving forward on
kind of like Jimmy Stewart. I could beat him. Clarence.
Well, I care about our country more than I do about my election or anything else. And I think we need political parties that are actually attached to the American people, that are serving the interests of our republic. And if the Democrats do what I suspect they're going to do, which is to anoint Kamala Harris, a vice president who is monumentally unpopular within her own party. They're doing it because it's the easiest way to hold on to the money, and it's
he's right about that.
And I think if they don't open up the process, that it really is going to discredit this political party that I would remember all of my years. I can take the back of that to create the illusion of a democracy, but in fact, it's a cabal that is choosing the same way the Soviet Union did, Russia has elections. Vladimir Putin wins with 88% of the vote because he controls who can be his opponents, and he controls the media. And the same is true now of our political parties in this country.
Would you open up to the possibility of taking part if there was an open convention? You called for that. Is that something you would consider taking part?
I would certainly listen to the party elders if they came to me. I would discuss something with them. I'm the only presidential candidate who can beat Donald Trump. And if I were them, I would do that. And I would certainly listen to their proposals.
Will you actively seek out that nomination? You're saying if they come to you, but
I am very content running where I am. And I believe I can win this election. I believe at this point it's a two-man race or two-person race. Let me put it that way. And, and that I'm in the best position to win.
And if the polling then shows that you're not in the best position, whoever the Democrats go with, whether it's Vice President Harris or someone else, will you, because what you cite often are your internal polls. So if your internal polls show that you will actually lose, would you step down and step aside?
Well, I would. That's an interesting proposal, and I would consider taking that proposal if the other candidates did the same.
You mentioned Kamala Harris is who you said that the Democratic Party appeared poised to put into that position. You were critical there, obviously, of President Biden's policy. What, if anything, is different? How do you compare yourself to Kamala Harris if she does become the Democratic nominee for president?
Well, I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people, despite a Supreme Court order. She released 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country. 50% of the homeless people in our country are in California, and she was behind those policies. I don't think she has a good...
He's not right or wrong about that.
In terms of the traditional democratic principles, I don't think she has a credible record.
In all the turmoil the past week, you ever had gone through your mind you regret leaving the Democratic Party? Because with this turmoil, that might have left you as a front runner as we speak today.
Well, I wouldn't be the front runner because by the time I left the Democratic Party, it was really clear that, and this is the only reason I left, that the rules have been rigged to prevent me from winning. So I would be in the same position as Dean Phillips is today or Marianne Williamson. I wouldn't, which is, sidelined. And the only way that I avoided getting sidelined was to leave the party, which neither of them were able to do.
I go to a lot of your events, and I've heard your stump speech, and a lot of today was your stump speech, but you're still focusing a lot on President Biden. He is out of the race. In fact, at one point you even said, highly critical of President Biden, said if President Biden, were to win, if Donald Trump were to win, but he's announced for hours now that he's out. Were you just confused, or have you moved on from it? It stood out.
I was making a point about there being very, very little difference between the two parties, and the current iteration of President Biden's policies is Kamala Harris, who has never voiced any differentiation, any distinction between herself and President Biden. I'm not going to, made some criticisms of her own policies, but I don't know what her national policy. There literally is no policy on their website, so we don't know what she stands for. My assumption is, according to her, that she stands for all the things that President Biden stood for.
Bob, does today's news affect your campaign moving forward?
Well, I think everything affects my campaign. I can't tell you how, and I try not to make predictions because I try not to do spin. And I think, as any of you can see, that we're living in a very, very dynamic situation now. It's unprecedented in American history. In fact, the closest thing to this, when I look back on American history, is the 1968 primaries where my father participated and was killed. And ironically, the convention, the Democratic convention this year is being held once again in Chicago. And in 1968, the Democratic Party tried to fix that convention with Mayor Daley basically anointing Hubert Humphrey, who was the DNC's choice. And there was chaos that erupted, and it destroyed the Democratic Party for a decade. So I think we have a lot to learn from that history. As I think Mark Twain said, that history doesn't repeat itself, and it rhymes. And
I exited out, but yeah, he was speaking. I didn't want to make the whole thing like I'm endorsing Bobby Kennedy, but that's just some of what he had to say. And I'm gonna actually let me put my music back on. Right, but he was speaking facts. Yeah, the system is rigged. How they do the rules, throw things up, especially with the Democrats, and even in the Republicans, it is rigged to vote to one person over another, sure. And I can tell you, especially those assassinations that took place, they were designed to keep RFK. They definitely did not want another Kennedy in the White House. That I know for a fact. That's why John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Why Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, because when Johnson lost, this is RFK Jr.'s website, by the way. That's Kennedy, and that's Shanahan. That's his vice presidential nominee. He's running as an independent. But with Bobby Kennedy, when Johnson stepped down as president, they knew it was a shoo-in that RFK was like the last hope to end the Vietnam War, bringing the troops home. Even with civil rights in this country, many people looked at him as a hope, as a great hope. And essentially, when he was assassinated, that ended any chance for those things to end. Vietnam, civil rights, a lot of that. And unrest took place, especially in 1968. There was civil unrest. We saw kids being shot up in college campuses, like at Southern, where I'm from, where I went to school at, the Smith Brown Union. It's named after those two students that were killed by police. To this day, that remains unsolved. That happened in the 60s and 70s, before I was born. And RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, I believe was taken out for that. Now, do I think RFK Jr. has a chance at beating Donald Trump or whoever the Democratic nominee is? Of course, people say it will be Kamala. Let's say it is. No, I don't, honestly. Although he may do what happened in 68. And let's look what happened in 1968. Already, I'm seeing people with the I'm with her. We see Kamala Harris. I'm seeing it all on my Facebook timeline. I'm gonna see it all. We're gonna see it on X. Everybody's gonna support her. That's particular to Chucks and Pearls. I shouldn't say everybody. Everybody may even say we are supporting her, but they may not be doing that. And you look at this map. So this is in 68. George Wallace, who ran as an independent, was staunch segregationist at the time. Richard Nixon and Hubert Humphrey. Nixon received 301 electoral votes. Humphrey, 191. Wallace got 46. And he only got 9 million votes. Now, that year, Dick Gregory was a write-in candidate. Now, I knew Dick Gregory. Baba Dick Gregory actually was a write-in candidate with Mark Lane. Everybody know that? And Dick actually told me he won the presidency. But he was a write-in candidate with Mark Lane. I'm trying to find the info on it. Did they? Oh, this was in 1968. He and Mark Lane ran for president. I did a story on this with him back when I was in school. And he even thinks he cost Humphrey the votes because he's told me this, he received, I believe, over, and forgive me if I'm getting the number wrong, wherever you are. If I get it wrong, he's like, I knew you should have got it right, nigga. I saw the check. I had 30 minutes. I had the votes. See? I think he got over 20 million votes right in at that time. He always said he thought he won the race, and he probably did. He was the write-in candidate. The Freedom and Peace Party in 68. That's a poster. But anywho, as we go further, so yeah, I always thought he won, but you see what independents do. I remember even in 1992 when Ross Perot ran. Ross Perot was an independent. Bill Clinton was running for president, and George H.W. Bush was the incumbent president. And a lot of people believe he cost George H.W. the election because now you look as an independent, this is how many votes he got. Bill Clinton received 370 electoral votes. George H.W. won 68. And Ross Perot got no electoral votes, unlike George Wallace, but he secured over 19 million in the popular vote. Now, many people felt that because he ran, he took this away from George H.W. Bush. Now you see from this map, the whole state, everywhere went, major states were blue, from California to Nevada, Washington, and Oregon. But of course, you had the Eastern Seaboard, the South, and Georgia and Louisiana went to Clinton. So I don't see how an independent can take votes from them. But I want to show y'all. So I don't see Bobby Kennedy Jr. actually beating the incumbent president or beating Donald Trump. I just think he has too much ahead of him, in fact. And look, I would support an independent candidate depending on what his goals and what he's going to be standing on. What is he offering? What any of these presidential candidates are offering? Are they offering tangibles? We know what Kamala is offering. I played the video for y'all earlier. I'm not going to offer anything that just only for black people. No, but there are black people. Guess what? Oh, we got to get history. We're going to support her. That's our sister. It's time to save her. I mean, and I'm seeing my stupid timeline is lit up. My timeline is lit up with Negroes who just tied to their sorority and their fraternity. They're gonna support. Blind devotion. Yes. I'm with her. Oh, we got to make the history. That sister girl. Y'all think Ricky Smiley gonna have her come on? She gonna do Atomic Dog? What's the next George Clinton song she gonna do? She gonna do Flashlight? Y'all remember Ricky Smiley said, "Oh, she got my vote because she did the Atomic Dog," which was that's the Q Dog's theme. Because Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley are all Omegas. Now, Bill Cosby is an Omega, and so is Andrew Wyatt. But I can tell you, I don't see Andrew or even Dr. Cosby just voting blindly for someone because they're part of a fraternity or sorority. Shaq is also Omega. Yeah, but Steve Harvey. Yeah. And I interviewed the first female vice president. And now she's gonna be the first female president. Yeah, I just hope she remembers me for press secretary. I'll do that. I'll make that whole damn thing funny. Your ass from CNN and your ass from Fox News trying to talk to me about some damn security clearance. Yeah, the state of the economy. I don't give a damn about the economy as long as the economy is making me richer. But let's look at Judge Joe Brown. So Judge Joe Brown, y'all remember what Judge Joe Brown had to say about Kamala Harris? This is what he spoke to the brother Kwame Brown about Kamala. Y'all know I do his voice real good.
And you got Come Queen La M.
Oh God, I didn't know. Damn,
in there. You know who M off is?
No.
Yes, you do.
Who?
Mrs. Imhoff, Vice President of the United States, who goes by her maiden name,
Miss Kamala?
Kamala Harris. She's got 2 Jewish children she adopted. She married a Jewish husband who's got a interesting.
I'm scared to talk about Kamala Harris. I'll let you have that one.
No, she's a witch, and she is a corrupt witch. She's been corrupt her whole life, and she fucked her way to the top.
Oh, damn.
They used to detail this witch in the LA Times with her sexual escapades. She fucked damn near everybody trying to get up. She used to be a frat hoe when she was at Howard.
Oh, come on, Judge.
And she ain't black. You know,
I ain't got to do with this, Miss Harris.
Nah, I mean, well, don't. But she's
I'm just. I don't know. I'm just listening.
Well, here's the thing. I actually met her father in Jamaica. I was the guest, sat at the governor.
I'm just looking at. Oh my God, these people. Judge got the far right. Judge is far right now. He's got the far right on his side. just from looking at these mentions and tweets they put him in. He don't like Kamala at all. He doesn't like Joe Biden at all. Oh, we'll put the music back on.
Us. Is that how you speak when you're at a debate? Is that how you speak when you're in front of a convention?
Good morning, AIPAC. Good morning. What an honor. No, we must stand with Israel.
Do you support reparations for Black people?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
Which is why I support the United States commitment to provide Israel with $38 billion in military assistance over the next decade.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
I support full funding for Israel, including for the Arrow, David Sling, and the Iron Dome missile defense systems, which save lives.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
And that's why I am fully committing to maintaining Israel's qualitative military edge.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
I stand here clear-eyed about the dangers of division in our country and in our world, understanding why a state for the Jewish people is so essential.
Do you support reparations for Black people?
No.
That speaks for itself. Oh my God, the stuff they got on.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
Yeah. So that was Kamala Harris. And so we're left with options, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, they're going to tell you the normal crew, like the Roland Poly Martin's going to tell you, y'all better. Oh, I can imagine he's going to be out. Yeah, we're going to have to back up. Come quick. I mean, Kamala. We want Kamala Harris to be president. I want to be the White House press secretary. Please, Madam Harris, have me. What y'all think, man? Y'all think Kamala got a chance? Yeah, Roland gonna be on there, be on his stuff. Ricky Smiley, D.L. Hughley, of course. Man, y'all know D.L. Hughley and Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins have been going back and forth. D.L. Had been going in on Boyce, I guess, because Boyce has been one of those. Boyce does a lot of passive aggressive stuff, but really, Dr. Boyce Watkins was talking about the elections, and he stated he wasn't, I guess, going to be supporting Joe Biden. And D.L. Hughley, y'all know D.L. is pro-Democrat all the way. I mean, anything that's with Democrats, he's all the way with. And so he and Boyce were going back at it. Hold on, I'm going to show y'all. Yeah. Calling him a D-head and everything. Tell me, dickhead, what a senator from the state of Delaware had the power to do. I've never liked you and have idea. And I don't know what he said. I've never liked you. I don't understand how he wrote this, but I've never liked you and have idea why you would pump ass on my paid clown. So he did a whole video and breakdown about DL, he and DL going at it. just to shield. Like I said, a lot of those guys, especially that work in radio, black radio, that work in black entertainment, they get monies from many of these Democratic groups. They're tied to the Democratic Party in some way, shape, or form, and they get money. And for them to come out and especially speak, I guess, shaming black men, shaming is black men in particular, shame black folks, but black men in particular, go and vote. They seek monies, they get donations from these groups, and they have to push these agendas, and that's what's happening. Yeah, Joy Reid is going to be in on it. Steve Harvey for sure. We know he is. We know he likes to kiss ass. Steve Harvey been kissing ass, so he can avoid being in a real comic. Remember when he called Tavis Smiley and Cornel West Uncle Toms because they weren't supporting Obama? They were critical of Obama. He called them Uncle Toms on live radio. It's gonna be nuts. Oh shit, they got Van Jones on here. Van Jones, the political TO, just crying ass like TO. He was crying like TO when Romo got hurt. That's my quarterback. No offense, TO. I love the brother TO, but yeah, this shit.
Kind of like when
start
your
crying again.
grandpa, you gotta take the keys, and everybody, you gotta take his keys, you gotta take his keys,
Oh,
you gotta,
this nigga.
and he's fighting, and everybody's so frustrated, and then you finally get the keys back, and then you just cry because this is somebody that you love, this is somebody that you care about,
Oh
this
my
is somebody
God,
who was there for you, this
no.
is somebody you wouldn't be here without him, and you had to take something from him. Now, this is not look. This politics is politics, but this is a human moment for one of the great humans in America. This is a huge moment for him, for his family, for all of us who love him, for all of us who wanted him to get across
It's
the
the
finish
same
line.
Negro that was
But
at Trump's.
if you're a young person watching
at
this,
Trump's White House,
this is leadership.
taking pictures with his
This is
daughters
patriotism.
and sons, man.
This is what it means to
Come on,
put the
man.
country first, and put the party first, and put the cause first. When your arm gets tired, you let somebody else finish pitching the game. That's what Joe Biden has done, and he's done that for all of us. And so I just want to say, I don't know who's going to be the VP, the non-VP. I don't know anything about politics. I just know that I love this man. I care about this man. It was painful every day to sit up here and talk about him like he's just a, some problem for the party. Wait till we get to the convention. You're going to see people crying, standing, screaming, cheering. He may not get a chance to talk for 10 minutes. We finally get a chance to put our arm around this guy. He did the right thing for this country, did the right thing for this party.
Listen, I have to stop. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm just looking at my timeline. Y'all look at this. Gumbo Poppy wrote, I don't know no black women that wear these garbs. Notice when she won the presidency, the national media twisted it as she's the first Asian woman to win when she won the vice presidency, the first Asian woman. yeah. Van Jones crying so damn much, Bossa Queenie. Wait, you Chucks and Pearls? Yeah. I'm Omega Sci-Fi. I threw up the hooks, baby. The Chucks and Pearl. You part of my Divine Nine all the time, girl. Bossa Queenie, your ass. See, you don't know what you done did when you say I hook you. Hey, that's my laugh. It's perfect. It's everything. Don't be mad. Be sad. Wait, that don't sound right here. Van Jones is crying. Yeah. No, I don't know either.
All of us are going to be in this
I'm looking for
situation
more
someday.
Judge
And
Joe.
I hope
So Judge Joe said this. It's not just Biden. Kamala Imhoff, the humping hyena, obviously has mental issues of her own. Space. Anyone who breaks out giggling at some of the stuff she cackles about is ailing. Y'all can imagine this striking deals with China. This face striking deals with China. Yeah, but Van Jones is always crying. He's crying more than Keith Sweat in a song, man. Come on. Oh, I gotta watch this. Yeah, Judges is going off. T.O. is gonna be voting against Biden. I mean, voting against Trump. So he put this out. The so-called laughing hyena is a smelly beast, a scavenger that associates itself with bait for buzzards. This dying buzzard bait beast, aka Joe Biden, was bait for scavengers like the humping hyena. Judge, what is Judge? The humping hyena. Make sure you drop something in my Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. As you know, the channel's not monetized. If you love me for my time, I just say pay me for my time. Shout out to Cheryl Pearl, because Cheryl the Pearl, she's always supported. But all of y'all, if y'all can drop something in, I'm gonna talk about just something else right quick. We had a great show last night too, at the comedy, at the Verdict. We had comedy night last night, and it was lit. I just want to say I'm going to share with y'all uh in a second some photographs I have and just the event. If you missed it, ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't in the Louisiana, if you're not in New Orleans area, or if you are in the New Orleans area, I should say, and you didn't show up for this and I advertised it, you missed a hell of a show, because we had a great night. We had, I want to say, at least 25 people in attendance in the room. And it was just a great night. People were enjoying themselves. We had many comedians come in from, it was the Great American Laugh. We had a few drop-ins. Corey Mosley dropped in, my girl Corey from Houston, Texas. We had Brandon Haynes, who ripped the stage. The show was lit. I have some photographs I'm gonna show y'all. So we did the damn thing. Hold on a second, sorry. We did the damn thing, you sissified punks. Y'all just don't have a clue. Hold on, y'all. I got some photographs up that was shared with me. These are some of the photographs I have. Just a couple. Uh, that's Terry, that's Troy, that's Corey, that's Malika, and that's yours truly. Yeah, Malika is the owner of the verdict. That's B. Haynes, Brandon Haynes next to me. Marcus Bond was another one who was there. Marcus left a little early. But yeah, we all had a good time. I got more videos as well. Yeah, we had a great time at the Great American Laugh. So if you're in the New Orleans area at the time, we do these shows once a month on a Saturday. Like I want to say every third Saturday. Come on out. I'm trying to get material, actually doing stuff for a comedy special that I want to shoot. So that's something I have coming up next, man. So I'm doing that. Yeah, man. But 2024 is already crazy, man. It's getting crazy. Thank you. Yeah, y'all come on out. Yeah, our timeline is gonna be crazy. My timeline, I hate this. Rolling again. Yeah, Jason Black's got a lot to say tonight. Tariq's got stuff to say. Professor Black Troop will drop the moment of truth sometime in the morning about this. Guess what you got is my man Black Voltron.
So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit Black people. No. Okay, so this is coming from CBS News. So this is what they wrote. Yeah. See, Nas said she is Indian. She's not a Black American, and yet the graphic doesn't even have the word Indian on it. This is propaganda. CBS News wrote it. Let's listen.
Obama, which to my initial read has no endorsement of the vice president, but says in part, President Biden pointed us away from 4 years of chaos, falsehood, and division that had characterized Donald Trump's administration. Through his best policies and example, Joe has reminded us of who we are at our best, a country committed to old-fashioned values like trust and honesty, kindness and hard work, a country that believes in democracy, rule of law, and accountability. It says later, we will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have
fair
extreme
use, by the way, fair
we'll be
use.
able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. I believe that Joe Biden's vision of a generous, prosperous, and united America that provides opportunity for everyone will be on full display at the Democratic Convention in August, and I expect that every single one of us are prepared to carry that message of hope and progress forward into November and beyond. For now, Michelle and I just want to express our love and gratitude to Joe and Jill for leading us so ably and courageously during these perilous times, and for the commitment to the ideals of freedom and equality this country's founded on. No endorsement there of the Vice President. There's a lengthy statement from President
No
Obama.
endorsement of
My
the
initial
Vice
read has no
President.
endorsement of the Vice
So
President, but says in part,
I
President Biden
doubt
pointed us away
if
from 4 years of chaos, falsehood, and division that had characterized
I
Donald Trump's
doubt that
administration.
he's actually now. You notice he talks about division, and from the from Donald Trump.
Through his best policies and his example, Joe has reminded us of who we are at our best. The country committed us away from 4 years of chaos, falsehood, and division that had characterized Donald Trump's administration.
Chaos, falsehood, and division. President Obama shouldn't talk about division. See, we get amnesia very quickly in this country. When these elections come along, we get division real quick. We get amnesia real quick because I remember when Barack Obama was president and we had Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland. We had a bunch of these. We had these police shootings. I can't think of the brother that got shot in his back out in North Carolina. Was it Walter Scott? He got shot in the back by that cop. Now, I understand because those are local issues, the president getting involved, he has to be careful because, yes, there's politics and stuff involved. There's not just politics being involved. Outside of that, there's a judicial process. But this is the same president that's gotten involved. He stuck his mouth out to talk about other groups supporting other causes. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't have to say what it is. I remember him calling the couple on the steps of the Supreme Court when they overturned DOMA and they made homosexual marriage the law of the land. So he can do things if he wants to. He can speak on stuff if he wanted to. He's not forbidden from doing that. But we were told blindly to support him, to give him a chance. It's his first time. He deferred back president. You used to criticize him. You a sellout. Steve Harvey called Cornel West and Tavis Smiley sellouts. Now, I may not be big fans of. I'm not a big fan of Cornel West because I don't care for his policies. I think he's cut from the same cloth, although he does and has put his money where his mouth is at times. I'll give him credit for that. He went to jail out in Ferguson, but President Obama wouldn't do that. He's free now. He's not president anymore. Let's say he couldn't talk about it then. He's lecturing to black folks now. He and his wife lectured about how it was an affront to his legacy if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Why should we keep standing with these people if they don't respect you? Power does what it wants, yes. But it's clear this president, he did not respect you. That's why a lot of black men went out and voted for Trump. Trump increased Republican vote. He said it was a personal insult to my legacy for low black voter turnout. But you were an affront, Mr. Obama, former President Obama, to our legacy when you refused to speak on took up for other groups. Commented on Bruce Jenner getting on the cover. I believe it was, I can't even remember the name of the magazine, if it was Vogue or Elk, but standing on the cover like a female. You praised that. You called it courageous. But you said nothing about Tamir Rice. You wouldn't do a pardon for Jack Johnson, for his family, and the family was trying so hard. Jack Johnson's family, and it may have, and yeah, it's a symbolic victory. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not big on symbolic victories, but the point being is that the first black heavyweight champion, how that would look for the family of Jack Johnson, that their relative, their ancestor was being pardoned, though posthumously, by the first black president. Donald Trump had to pardon Jack Johnson, and that was because of Sylvester Stallone. Stallone pushed that and got in Donald Trump's ear. So it's good in some ways for us as black people, ladies and gentlemen, to have allies on different sides who's in power. It's good to have friends. Even Dr. Claude Anderson had to work with Strom Thurmond. To get black judges. It's happened. So look, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I wasn't gonna be here too long, but a lot's gonna be happening. We on a roller coaster, ladies and gentlemen, and we just creeped up and we're going down. We're not even halfway finished with the ride. Dom Luke Carey said, don't forget how Kamala, I think that's Montel's daughter on the left side, but damn, she's a cutie.
Including in 2001, former talk show host Montel Williams. Back then, he was the famous one and had to introduce her to the paparazzi. Now the whole world knows who she is. Long before
Why is this wheel spinning? All right, I'm sorry, y'all. Looks like I'm having an issue with my computer. So we're going to go ahead, wrap this up. Sorry. Yeah, I'm having an issue trying to get back to y'all. Hold on, I'm sorry. It's just Cricket Job. Kim. Crooked Joe just got knocked out, so now I'll have to do it a fourth time. So Trump didn't waste any time going in on Biden, y'all. I'm just looking at this. Hold on, before I leave. So I'm gonna show y'all this. No, Joe Biden actually pardoned Abraham Bolden. That was Joe Biden that did that. Yeah, shout out to Mr. Bolden. I haven't spoken to him in a while. I know I think he's been recluse because he's been up there in age, and he actually lost his children, I believe, recently. He and I are Facebook friends, but yeah, Abraham Bolden, the first Black Secret Service agent. Hold on. Let's put this. This is what he had to say. So Trump actually had to say this. This is how he reacts. Let's read his statement. I'm reading it to y'all now. So I'm reading his voice.
The former president is just after surviving this attempted assassination on been back out on the campaign trail about how they're responding.
Quote, crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including the doctors and the media, knew that he wasn't.
Let me read it in his voice. Crooked Joe Biden is the worst president by far in the history of our nation. He's done everything possible to destroy our country, from our southern border to energy dominance, national security, international standing, and so much more. He was annihilated in an earth-shattering debate, and now the corrupt and radical Democrats are throwing him overboard. He was not fit to serve from the very beginning, but the people around him lied to America about his complete and total mental, physical, and cognitive demise. Whoever the left puts up now will just be more of the same. Make America great again. Does anybody really believe that Crooked Joe had COVID? No, he wanted to get out ever since June 27th, the night of the debate, where he was completely obliterated. That was the beginning. That was the big moment in Joe Biden's demise. That was the point in time when Joe was revealed for what he is, an incompetent man who should have never been president. Joe Biden is not fit to serve. He is destroying our country. My debate with Crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, was slated to be broadcast on fake news ABC, the home of George Stephanopoulos. He calls him George Slopadopoulos. Sometime in September. Now that Joe has not surprisingly quit the race, I think the debate with whomever the radical left Democrats choose should be held on Fox News rather than very biased ABC. Thank you, DJT. You know what that means. Drops mic. Crooked Joe couldn't beat me. You see, in order to be the man, Joe, as Ric Flair once said, you have to be the man. And if you can't do that, Joe, you were never a man. Like the Godfather, a man who doesn't spend time with his family is not a man. He's crooked like you. As Ric Flair would also say at this point, woo, if I'm not mistaken. I love Rick. He's got my He's got my vote as greatest wrestler of all time. Well, no offense, Hulk. Those leg drops weren't very convincing. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, don't be rude. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe button before you leave here. Hit that notification bell so you know we go live, because the crooked screw tube is messing with this channel. It's not terrific. You can also purchase a book on Amazon Kindle. Make sure you purchase a book. We're trying to get paperback copies. But make sure, don't be rude. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure you're hitting it. Don't be rude. You can also donate. If you don't drop anything in my Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo, I consider it an insult. I think you're going to be rude. You're going to be worse than Rosie O'Donnell. You're going to be a rude little pig. As Alec Baldwin told his daughter, don't be rude. So we're going to ask you, smash up the likes. We're glad you enjoyed this broadcast. I've been a little bit long-winded. Not as long as I was long-winded the other night when I did the debate, when I did the nomination. I went over an hour, but it was special. So I'm going to get out of here. Bossa Queenie, Danielle Meyer, was beautiful seeing you ladies. Tylene, as always. Cheryl the Pearl, you're terrific. You're not rude, you're terrific. And of course, I love seeing myself, G-Rich2786, and G-Boot. We smashed up the likes. Shout out to Bookie the Realist, and support the arts. Love you very much. Don't be rude. We're getting out of here. Be one, be safe, and be blessed. Van Jones, stop that crying before I slap you with a box of Kleenex. We out, y'all.